Oh, hi there, and welcome to another edition of Friday Night Lights. I'm Tom Malone, as always. I'm joined by Johnny Ward and Gavin Lynch as well, and we'll be looking to guide you through the Friday night card at Dundalk, as always. Another tricky card. Last week we'd 234 entries. This week we had 244 entries, so even more difficult. Anyway, let's start off with the 5 furlong maiden. Ger Lyons horse probably brings the best bit of form and second to Brogeyman last time out. What do you make of it, Gavin?
Yeah, it's all a joke, has a rating of 71, which wouldn't be that high for a 2-year-old. I noticed that Fozzie Stack and Darren Bunyan have 2 first-time outers, which are interesting because Fozzie ran a horse called Miss Margarita in Leopardstown when Chris Hayes rode it to be 7th, but Chris picks Californian Yoo-Hoo. And also Darren Bunyan's horse Snowpatch ran recently, ran okay over 6, looked like a step down to 5 would suit, but Lee Roach has picked Claiborne, so I think one of those two perhaps are most interesting.
The 2 debuts. Interesting, the two Fozzie Stack runners, both by Scat Daddy. We don't see that too often of a Friday night, Johnny.
No, and I'd nearly have tipped California Yoo-Hoo, but it's gelded already, so maybe that's a pointer. I thought this was probably one of the no-bet races of the card, not the only one as well. We had a bit of a Black Friday blackout last Friday, and this card
just
isn't any easier. I certainly did. I think I had one winner anyway. We cobbled a few together. I'm with Snowpatch, dropping back in trip. On the face, it should suit. I'm not all that keen on horses who were keener on their second start than their first start. I think mentally they're not really progressing, and this horse definitely was keen, but she still shaped fairly well, and she was well backed early in the day, so she must be showing something. Gary Halpin takes over, so tentative pick.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Right, on to the sprint then, and we've got your friend Alfredo Alcano. It doesn't have the same plum draw this time round, though. Would you give him another squeak, Johnny?
Definitely. Yeah, I think he's the horse to beat. Obviously, with aggression, he's actually better off than he was when just touching aggression off 2 runs back. For aggression rather than 1 run back from Alfredo Cano, but I think this horse is a bit more tough. For David Moran was on about he was going to the sales, but they held on to him because I think they were targeting winning a few bob over the Christmas here. And with Geological and 1 over you in the race, I think he'll just get a perfect toe. But if aggression is handy coming into the straight, he does stay very well. He was certain to turn into straight last week, but this is a better race.
Yeah, you mentioned before he's a tricky ride, but the 10-pound claimer Tom Sherry last week gave him a peach, didn't he?
Yeah, super ride. Yeah, very very good. He came late. I go with Johnny, I go with Alfredo Arcana. He's £4 better off with aggression. Yeah. And as Johnny says, he should be able to track 1 over you in particular. But anybody who backs Alfredo Arcana will be watching out for aggression coming late from the back of the pack.
Yeah, especially after that run last week. Right, let's move on to the 6 furlong contest. This another 6 furlong maiden here. It's another tricky looking race. One that stood out for me a little bit is the one's now with Ger Lyons, Catamaran, very well bred.
That's the one I like. It had 2 runs for William McCreary back in April when it was owned by Godolphin. Sean Jones has made a clever purchase, I'd imagine, because it's very well bred. It's a half sister to Sappho, who has won a maiden since, and also the Dam Katla had won 3 listed race, was rated 105 at one stage. So
yeah, I remember winning the Curragh a few years ago. Yeah.
So Catamaran drawn 1. If it runs to something like a 70 or low 70s, it should be good enough in this race.
Yeah, and Ger Lyons is the king of the horse in training sales as well. Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, they do brilliantly at the sales, and I reluctantly go against Catamaran with Peace Officer, who just might be livened up a bit by a first-time visor, and his 6 furlong form is pretty average, but it's probably still good enough to go very, very close there, and £3 taken off by Oshinor. Gugan Barra is an interesting enough horse, but I'm very surprised they drop it back in trip. I thought it wanted further on pedigree and the evidence of its only start as well, so Peace Officer for me.
Good stuff. Right, on to the Mile Maiden then to follow this one. Again, probably Ger Lyons is going to have a big enough say here. We'll Bring On the Band. Anything else standing out?
I'd say Bring On the Band will be morning favourite anyway. Yeah. It was 3rd last time to Night of Power. Night of Power has a rating of 80, so it ran to mid-70s, which wouldn't be that crash hot, would say. There's 5 trainers in here with first-time outers: Henry de Bromhead, Darren Bunyan, Andy Oliver, Dermot Well as an Aga Khan horse. And the one I'm just as a token pick would be Downdraft. It's well bred. It's a half brother to Chelsea Rose, among others, so I'll just go for Joseph O'Brien's first time out. Yeah,
absolutely. I kind of looked at Pillar Mountain for that kind of reason. Was a breeze up horse, but then pulled out of the breeze ups. Incredibly well bred too by Kodiak out of a Galileo mare, but that'll be again a token selection. Johnny?
Just drawn 14 as well. It'll be very tough for a newcomer, even over the mile. I went with Max Velocity for Chris Farrell. Didn't shape badly at all on debut. Wasn't one of these horses that was very green and stayed on well. Actually was quite professional, but showed a bit of pace, and I think because of his connections he'll probably be overpriced, but his trainer is able to train, and it's another very tricky maiden.
Yeah, we'll follow that with one of the 45 to 65s. This one wasn't divided, even though there was between the two 45 to 65s yesterday. By the way, it's 150 entries, and only one of them got divided. So this is really competitive just to get in.
Yeah, well, they gave them an extra card next Wednesday in effect to deal with the situation. But you know, I mean, if you're going to start catering for these rubbish horses, like, or certainly low grade horses, then you're going to get a Dundalk that's closer to Wolverhampton than the Curragh, like, and I think it's a nice balance at the moment. I definitely don't think they should start lowering the quality. Lower grade horses do not have any divine right to get races. If they're no good, they shouldn't be in training, I would argue. Park Row is my selection in this. You know, this is a fascinating race because Complicit was backed off the boards the last day, and I think we were talking about the horse prior to it. He'd been running so frequently over 5 and 6 furlongs. I think he forgot actually how to race over a mile, and he was just worn down the last day. Dun O'Connor takes off 5, so he probably should win, but he's drawn 13, and Park Row, he's very well handicapped in his best form. I think he just might outdo him in the last half furlong, just outstay him. He's won over a mile and a half, but he's fine at a mile as well, and John Fean, always a man to follow around here.
Your thoughts on that?
I'm going to back 2 horses in this race. I'm going to back Koi Big, and I'm going to back La Compersita. Koi Big, yeah, Koi Big last twice. It's only had 2 runs for Pat Murphy. It changed yards during the summer, and it was drawn 11 and 13 the last twice. It won off 64, and it's still off 64. This time it's drawn 5. And the other one is La Compersita. It's only had 6 runs. We won the last day off 51 over 7 furlongs, but it's crying out for a mile. Colin Keane rides, so I'm definitely going to back the 2 of those. Good
stuff. Probably the feature event of the night. The top 2 in the handicap probably going to dominate the market. Friend of the show, Clear Skies, and My Direction as well for Elmarie Holden, who's won his last 2. Who are you going to go with here, or is there something else?
I think if you want to make money at Dundalk for the last while, you back Timia or Clear Skies, it seems, because Clear Skies, she, as we said last week, she has taken a long time to learn how to race. She was very keen. But the last 3 times she's won her maiden, and she's won the 2 handicaps off 72 and 79, now off 86. The only little thing is her 3 wins were over 10.5, we'll call it, and this is over 12. She'll need to settle. Hopefully she will. She's learnt that, and she needs to come very, very late with Donica. He
gave her a peach of a ride last week as well. Johnny, your thoughts?
I tipped Clear Skies 2 runs back when Gavin tipped Thunder Speed, and Thunder Speed actually should beat her at revised terms, but I just think she's learning how to race, and she's been with her pedigree. If a mile and a half is a problem for her, you know, it would be quite surprising, and I just think it's a question of her settling. And you know, you hear that kind of guff about don't, you know, let go of a mare in form, always back the mare in form, but she's just learning how to race, and she's just full of confidence, you know, and she's definitely one of the bets of the evening, I think, in what is by far and away the best race on the card.
Yeah, right. Absolutely right. The closing handicap, which is divided, the top, well, 2 of the top 3 in the market here, Nimitz and Carrageen Prince, the 2 that probably stood out for me. Again, probably looking to the top of the handicap. Just
the only thing about Nimitz is he's had 11 starts. In 4 of his last 6 runs, he's been favoured or second favourite, but he just can't seem to win. I think Mazzalai, who beat Complicit the last day, I think the step up to 10.5 will really suit. It's gone from 57 to 63, but I'll go for Mazzalai.
Mazzalai, Johnny?
Mazzalai's a fair chance of it today's. Nimitz has drawn 14, which is not good over this trip, and it's going to be tricky for it, because I don't think it really gets home all that conclusively either. Having said that, I'm going to contradict myself and go with the horse who's also drawn high. California Lad, who was well capable of winning this on his English form. He really should win it. Yeah. He's been running over a mile and a half. He's running on turf. He's running on the all-weather. But I think this might be something like his best trip. He'd probably miss the break, so he's going to need to get a toe into the race. But with there is a horse in the race, Shamar, who went off like an absolute scalded cat, as they said the last day. Probably went odds on in running, yet was beaten about 40 lengths and finished last. But if he does the same, it'll probably suit my lad to get a toe into it.
Good stuff. The closing the card probably looks the lesser of the 2 divisions of this handicap. Thoughts on it?
It looks a lesser division, as you say. Probably the favourite will be Tropic Thunder. I'd imagine he might win. I wouldn't back it, but I'd say he probably should win. He was last turn in the last day. He's only a pound higher. Conor McGovern rides again.
Yeah. Johnny, thoughts on the last?
I want you to do a Graham Norton for me here. You know the way they hold the thing when they have the guest
when we get the new kid out, we're definitely getting a flipping chair.
Just get your hand ready, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to tip Wade for Dave.
I was going to say.
Oh my God.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Get out.
If he runs the race, he ran 2 runs back. I think he'll win.
Okay. He is due to win a race.
Drawn 2. I think the boy Cross takes a few pounds off him. Very, very weak in the betting over a mile, actually, the last time he ran, which was interesting. Like, he was literally friendless, and I'm not sure whether that was people with speed angles who knew he couldn't win over a mile, but I don't know if he's ungenuine or whether he just needs things to fall into place.
Well, he won't get a much poor race to try
Desperate
and
He
win.
should get a
It's
good,
very,
it's a good
very poor
chance.
race,
Yeah. Right, like time for some best bets on the card tonight then.
The nap again is Clear Skies, and second and third best Mazzalai and Alfredo Arcano.
Good stuff, Johnny.
Same nap. So there you go.
Yeah.
Wait for Dave is the next best.
Oh dear.
Because I think he'll be an each way price of some description. And the third is Park Row for a bit of value.
Good stuff. I'm going with Catamaran, One Over You, and Clear Skies for a full house on Clear Skies. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with hopefully lots more winners next week.